नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. So I apologize, last week we could not have it on Monday as usual because I had to travel to Mumbai. So that's why we have shifted just this 1 week. We have shifted it to Friday. So, and incidentally, my Friday classes also got cancelled. So that's why I could shift it to Friday. Otherwise, it would have been difficult. We would have had to cancel it. But not cancel. I think no, we could have adjusted it to some other day. But on Fridays, generally, I have 12:30 to morning 10:30 to 12:30 and 2 to 4 class is already there. So it would have been difficult to shift it to Friday, and I would have had to shift it to some other day anyway. So we have been discussing from Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, in which we have been discussing about the Sambandha Gyan. The first chapter essentially talks about the Dashamula Tattva, and in the Dashamula Tattva, the first tattva, of course, is that the Shabda Praman is the topmost Pramana. And then subsequently, the next 7 topics, they talk about Sambandha Gyan. The first of those 7 topics, the first 3 topics speak about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how the Supreme Lord is actually Krishna. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is Sarva Shaktiman, about the energies of Krishna. And then not only that he is Sarva Shaktiman, he is also Akila Rasamrita Murti, the personification of all rasas. And then there was a discussion about the rasas briefly. And then we started discussing about the Jiva Tattva. So in Jiva Tattva, we were discussing about what is this Tatastha Shakti, and what are the various kinds of living entities, and what is the nature of Tatastha Shakti, and how there are Nitya Parshada Jivas also, and things like that. We were discussing from, of course, from Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, and we were also discussing from Jaiva Dharma. So at this point of time, I'll let Radha Pramod Prabhu take over and share the overview of what we have seen last week, and then subsequently we will start today's discussion. Over to you, Prabhu. You are the co-host, Prabhu. Yeah.
Om Gyan Timirandasya Gyananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Actually, sorry, I could not uh, make it, but I will just summarize what we discussed last time. So this is basically question answers session that is going on between Vajranath and Raghunath Das Babaji Maharaj. So why am I in truth and why I have taken birth? So that was the first question. And then Raghunath Das Babaji Maharaj says, your question sanctified my heart. When good fortune strikes a person, this is the first query he asks. So then this fifth Dashamol Shiksha that is described about Jiva. So then he explains how millions of minute particles of consciousness from transcendental Sun Sri Hari, like flames of fire, fall. So like from Sun, how the particles are coming. Similarly, from Hari, this innumerable living entities comes, and they are non-different from the Supreme, yet they are distinct. So Lord is always the master and control of Maya, whereas Jiva, even in liberated state, is venerable for Maya. So this is what he explains. Then Vajranath asks, okay, he wanted Vedic evidence for what is described. So Raghunath Das Babaji, he actually states he quotes a shloka, and then he explains how Jiva situated in the causal ocean is able to reside in both dream world of matter and the spiritual world. And he explains how is like a huge aquatic which is capable of living on both eastern and western side of the river. So he gives an example how Jiva can be in both direction. Then Vajranath asks another question. So, okay, what is the Vedic understanding of marginal situation? What is Tatastha? So, Raghunath Das Babaji explains that border between water and land is called Tatastha. Water is spiritual world and land is material world. And he says it is merely demarcation that separates the water from land, and it is a settled state. You cannot exactly define it in that way. And he says that Jiva sees the spiritual in one direction and material world in another direction. And he also here explains how sometimes the land becomes water and water can become land. So that's why it is a subtle state. And he says Chit Shakti and Maya Shakti are unlimited, in between, innumerable uh, Jivas. So this is in between, there is the innumerable Jivas are there and created by Krishna's Tatastha Shakti. So this is what he explains. So then Vajranathas, okay, then what is this marginal nature? So Raghunath Das Baba says the choice is the natural characteristics of Tatastha Swabhava. So he has this freedom. So Jiva has access to both spiritual and material, Chit Shakti and Maya Shakti, and is susceptible to come under the control of either. So this is what is the choice that is there for the living entity. So he says the movements of, so here he explains the movements of river shifts the banks. And that's why sometimes the bank becomes river. And sometimes the river deposits some silt and it becomes land. So in that way, land becomes water and water becomes land. So in that way, Jiva has access for both. It can be in the material, in the Chit Shakti or in Maya Shakti. And if Jiva looks to Krishna, faith increases, develops strong foothold in spiritual world. And if he turns back to his back to Krishna, and he became enmeshed in the network of Maya. So this is what is happens. So this is what is marginal nature that is explained by Raghunathas. Then Vajanadas. Okay, if Maya Shakti present in constitution, is Maya Shakti present in constitutional structure of Jiva? Raghunathas Baba says no. Jiva is product of spiritual nature, so Maya Shakti is not there. But being infinitesimal in size, but lack of sufficient spiritual strength, therefore he become venerable to Maya. Otherwise, the Maya is not a constitutional structure of the Jiva. But the Mayavadis will never succeed in establishing this concept of monism, just as by the analogies like snake, rope, and all. So their understandings are very shallow and misleading. So this is also explained here. Now Vajran asks another question. Okay, did Chit Shakti create the Jiva? Then Raghunath Das Baba says no. Chit Shakti is full and absolute spiritual energy, and her creations are also eternally perfect. And Jiva is not Nitya Siddha. By perfect sadhana, becomes sadhana siddha, experiences same level of bliss as Nitya Siddha. So is not from Chit Shakti, is from Tatastha Shakti. So here we have this chart which Prabhuji explained, how Krishna expands in various forms for presiding over different manifestations of his Chit Shakti. So Lord, for his pleasure, he expands in different ways and he creates in a different way for his own pleasure. So how he manifests and different kinds of potencies of Krishna, and he create different kinds of entities. So here he is presiding over Chit Shakti, and is Purna Shakti and full of complete potency. And sorry. So here, and then there is he manifests, the Chit Shakti manifests as Sri Krishna of Braja, manifested as, and Sri Narayana, and his creations through Chit Shakti are Radharani and her Kaya Vyuha expansions. Also, the four types of Sakhi serving Srimati Radharani and Nitya Siddhas, and Radharani is Chit Shakti Swarupa, Nitya Siddha Sakhis are her Kaya Vyuha and all these things. So this is all manifestation from Chit Shakti, and in Vaikunta there are other expansion. So Radharani's expansions as Lakshmi and all also come under Chit Shakti. And then Jiva Shakti, this is Apurna Shakti, incomplete and partial energy of Krishna, and it is manifested through Balramji. This is Vilasa Murti, and they manifest as in Vraja. Nitya Siddha Parshadas of Krishna are manifested, and in Vaikunta, Nitya Siddha Parshad of Narayana manifested. And then there is Maya Shakti, and is Sankarshan, he expands, and as Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Kshirodakshay Vishnu, and Karnodakshay Vishnu, and then further expands as Mahavishnu from him. All these Tatastha Jivas are manifested. In Tatastha Jivas, there are different categories. Of course, he expands as Paramatma and enters into all this Nitya Mukta, Nitya Baddha, and Sadhana Siddha Jivas. And as he expands into all these living entities. So this is from Sankarshan it comes. So first is from Krishna, another is from Balaram, and then there is Sankarshan. Maya Shakti is presided over Sankarshan. And this Tatastha Jivas, they are prone to Maya, obedient to the dictates of Maya, and as long as he, by mercy of Mahavishnu, receives shelter of Ladini Shakti, he will be entangled. So if he gets this mercy of Mahavishnu and shelter of Ladini, so then only he will be able to come out of this entanglement of Maya. Now the interesting question starts is the Vajnadas. Okay, Jiva and spiritual world are eternal. Then how they have birth and appearance? So then Raghunath Das Babaji explains that this is very we have to understand. This is time and space. So if you say they are eternal, how you can say they have birth? Raghunath Das Babaji, time and space experience in the material world are different from spiritual world. Material world, time is divided into past, present, and future, whereas time in spiritual is ever present, and there are no divisions like that. And spiritual activities present and material activities mundane. So it is always in present only spiritual, whereas material activities, they are affected by mundane time and space. That's why they have all these three categories: past, future, and present. And then he, a very important thing extends, because of our captive conditioning, when we discuss about spiritual objects also, our words are influenced by the concepts of material time only. So we cannot understand anything beyond that because of our conditioned nature. So our thoughts cannot be free from the concept of mundane time. Then we think in terms of past, present, and future only. We cannot understand beyond that because of our situation. Then he explains that person, sorry, person solely searching for absolute truth and perceive and apply the concept of ever present time in his understanding. So simply observed in spiritual concept and reject the mundane dose caused by words. So then he explains that human intellect is in the grips of pramada, illusion, and cannot comprehend transcendental. So we have these four defects. That's why it is not possible for us to comprehend. So when we hear about past, present, future, then we should understand all our speech are covered with material contamination. Concerning these topics, there is no room for debating or arguing. So when we hear, we should accept as it is. And applying logic and rhetorical to spiritual subject matter is futile exercise. So it is not possible to understand with our so-called intelligence what is explained about past, present, future, or creation and other things. Not so easy to understand. So we cannot use logic there. As devotional practice and spiritual attachment increases, power to discriminate between matter and spirit, and it will be sharpened. So then only when our intelligence become purified by the spiritual practice, then only we'll be able to comprehend what is explained here. So this is one part of question. Then further question continues. I'll just a minute. I'll just go to that part. So further, few more questions he asks is, so Vajnath asks, okay, Jiva is spiritual by nature. Why he descend to degrade into this material world? Raghunath Das Babaji, then he starts his sixth Dashamula Siksha. By Swarupa, Jiva is surrendered to Krishna. Who alienated by Swarupa are dwelling in illusion. So if you give up our Swarupa, then we are into illusion. So then we are penalized by Maya Shakti, who binds them with three modes. So when Jiva misuses, then he is burned. And then covers the Swarupa with subtle and gross bodies. So our Swarupa is generally surrendered, but got covered with subtle and gross bodies. And then we are imprisoned in the cycle of karma. Then there is description of who are Nitya Parshadas. So they are eternal associates belonging to Jiva category only, and manifestation in Balram in Goloka and Sankarshan in Vaikuntha, eternally engaged in service of the Lord, ever possess enthusiasm and affection for the Lord. They are permanent residents of the spiritual world, fully absorbed in simply relishing bliss of devotional service, and selfish material joy is alien to them. Prema is their life and soul, and do not know that lamentation, death, or fear exists. So this is all Nitya Parshadas. For every eternally spiritual potent imbued with Chik Shakti forever, and no connection of Maya, unmindful of her existence also. Whereas Tatastha Jivas, their emanation from Mahavishnu, and nature is to look in both directions. But Nitya Siddha it is not like that. And their neighbors of Maya witnesses her variegatedness, and they are also venerable because of not being reinforced with Chit Shakti. And there is also a desire to enjoy material nature, eternally enthralled by her, and who want to serve Supreme Lord or elevate to spiritual Lord. So there can be that direction also. Then Vajranath asks another question. Okay, why some engrossed in material nature and other elevated to spiritual world? Raghunath Baba said, the quality of free will is innate constitution of jiva. So there is a free will. That's why some go that side, some come this side. If properly used, connected with Krishna, and by misuse, he dissociates with the Lord and attracted to exploitation. Then he says, okay, and when he thinks I am the enjoyer, then the five level of nescience, tamas, andata, mishra, tamishra, moha, mahamoha, and could the pure spiritual consciousness. So this is all covered. Jiva becomes conditioned by or liberated depends on how he uses his free will. So then another important question comes. Okay, if Lord is merciful, why he created this free will? Then Raghunath Das, Krishna is not only uh, Karunamay, but also Leelamay. That's why he created to make Jiva active partner of his Leela. He made this versatile nature. So made him capable of rising from his humble position to the as a marginal being to the scoring heights of Mahabhav, to make him determined and facilitate his ascension. And then okay, then and he also explains that Jiva seeking diverse to Swarupa descends from spiritual world. So compassionate Lord descends with this abode and associates to offer this highest spiritual destination. So this is still here we have discussed. Yes, bro, I'm done.
Hare Krishna. I'm really sorry. I just had to leave for a moment. Okay. So thank you, bro. Thank you very much for your recap. So what we will do now is we will, oh, I wanted to open the Manasiksha. Sorry, the Jaiva Dharma. Just hold on for a second. Let me just open the Jaiva Dharma. I thought I had opened it. Okay, so I will do a very quick recap of some of the points which need little bit more elaboration, because we have discussed this just once, and in our we are currently discussing, we just discussed the same Jiva Tattva only in our Brihad Bhagavatamrita discussion also, but we did it over 5 days and we just did it once. So I will just do a quick overview of some additional points which may need some elaboration, and then we will open up the floor for some discussion points, and then we will start today's discussion. Okay, so from the 15th chapter, I will share some points from the 15th chapter, and then I will share some points from the 16th chapter also. Okay, and then we will continue. So, so we have been discussing about this Jiva Tattva, and if you remember, Vrajanath asked, "Who am I in truth? Keami, who and why have I taken birth in this world?" And in response to this, Srila Raghunath Das Babaji Maharaj, he talks about the Achintya Bhedabhed connection between the Jiva and the Supreme Lord. He's the same being the Amsha, but at the same is non-different being the Amsha, but at the same time there is an eternal difference between Lord Hari and the Jiva. Even though it is mentioned that it is because of his minute nature, but it is not exactly due to his minute nature also. It is not just due to the minute nature. The Jiva is minute, no doubt about it, but at the same time, the Jiva is also not qualitatively completely one with Krishna. As we discussed last time, the Jiva has only 50 qualities. Krishna has 4 qualities, right? So constitutionally also, even though we may say that the Jiva is qualitatively one, but the Jiva is not qualitatively exactly one with Krishna also. The Jiva is qualitatively more similar to Krishna than to dull matter. So Jiva is conscious, Krishna is conscious. Dull matter is not conscious. So if you see, whenever Prabhupada talks about the qualitative oneness, it should be understood to be qualitative similarity and not exactly oneness. It is not exactly one. So you take infinite number of Jivatmas and put them together, it is not that they will become Krishna. Right? So that is the point. And then Vrajanath asked this question: what is the Vedic understanding of the marginal situation called Tatastha? What is the Vedic understanding of this Tatastha nature? What is Tatastha nature? So he gives the example of the river. Sometimes when the river changes the course, the riverbed becomes the river bank, or sometimes the river bank may also become riverbed when the Jiva. So in the same way, he says that the Tatastha Jiva, as we discussed the other day, there are 3 categories of living entities, conscious living entities, apart from Krishna, of course. Apart from Krishna and the Vishnu Tattva, there are the Chit Shakti Swarupa. Radharani is Chit Shakti Swarupa, and there are Kaya Vyuha Rupas, her direct expansions which fall within the Shakti Tattva in the spiritual world. Lalita Devi, Vishaka Devi, and the other gopis, some of the gopis, the Nitya Siddha gopis, not Nitya Siddha gopi, this is not the right terminology to use. They are called as Kaya Vyuha Rupa. They are not Jiva Tattvas, but they are direct expansions of Srimati Radharani, right? Then apart from that, in Goloka Vrindavan and in Vaikunta, there are Jivas which are called as Nitya Parshadas. So these Nitya Parshada Jivas are actually they never come in touch with Maya Shakti only. They are always in the spiritual world, and they are always assisting Krishna in his pastimes. This is the Nitya Parshadas. They are controlled completely by Chit Shakti. So you have Chit Shakti Swarupa, And then you have these Nitya Parshada Jivas, they are completely controlled by Chit Shakti, but they are not exactly Chit Shakti Swarup. This is the second category. Then the third category are the Tatastha Jivas, right? Tatastha Jivas are those which have access to both the material realm and the spiritual realm. They can look at both the places. So these jivas, what is the difference between the Tatastha Jiva and the Nitya Parshadas? He says, in one sense, both of them are infinitesimal in size. But the only difference is that the Nitya Parshada Jivas, they are so distant away from this material world, this Mayic world, that they don't even know about the existence of this material world, which is under the influence of Maya. So therefore, they are not at all vulnerable to the attack of Maya, not because not because they are not infinitesimal in size. They are also infinitesimal in size, but they are very far away. That is the point. But the Tatastha Jivas, they become vulnerable due to two reasons. One is they are infinitesimal, and also because they can see this Mayic world, this material world, right? So here he gives this explanation of the Tatastha Jivas here, right? So they are like the border. They can look at the spiritual world. They can look at the material world also. Okay. So then he talks about the nature of this Tatastha Swabhav. So the Tatastha Swabhav nature is that he can look at, as we discussed, that he can sometimes look at the material world, or sometimes he can look at the spiritual world also. And these Tatastha Jivas are of three types we discussed, right? There are Nitya Muktas who are eternally liberated. Okay. So they may exist in the realm of Brahmajyoti, right? So I will just add a slide here. It will become all the more easy to explain. Just hold on. I'll just add one slide here. So there are three categories, right? So there is Radharani, and there is Mother Lakshmi. Okay, they are Chit Shakti Swarup, the very personification of Chit Shakti, and they have their Kaya Vyuha expansions. Okay, so and then there are Nitya Parshadas. So these Nitya Parshadas are infinitesimal jivas only, but far away from the realm of Maya. Therefore, they are not vulnerable to Maya. Okay, and they are under the control of Chit Shakti. Okay, they are, so these Kaya Vyuha expansions are just manifestations of Chit Shakti, whereas the Nitya Parshadas are Jivatmas only, but they are under the control of the Chit Shakti, right? Just like you can say, you have Rasgulla, Okay. Rasgulla has rasa and paneer, right? So the Kaya Vyuha expansions are like only rasa. So, but this Nitya Parshada Jivas are rasa plus, paneer, right? Our paneer here is jiva, and jiva is just floating or soaked in chit shakti. Okay, so rasa is compared to chit shakti and the paneer is compared to the jiva. So Nitya Parshadas are one step low, they are jiva tattvas. Okay, then there are tatastha jivas. So tatastha jivas are also infinitesimal. Okay, but they are close to the realms of spiritual world and material world. Okay, therefore they are vulnerable to Maya. Okay, and there are three types of tatastha jivas. There are nitya baddha, always conditioned, or sadhana siddha, one who by practice of sadhana has attained perfection. The third category is nitya mukta. Now the question would be, if he is eternally liberated, then why is he not called a nitya parshada? He is a nitya parshada different from a nitya mukta. Okay, nitya mukta can be different because these nitya parshadas are under the control of chit shakti, whereas nitya muktas are still under the control of tatastha shakti. So here you can have jivas which are in Brahma Jyoti. So even though they may be eternally there in Brahma Jyoti and they are eternally liberated, but they are not under the control of chit shakti, right? Because they are devotees. And then you can even have living entities, these jivas, in Vaikunta. If you remember the Sukha Ishwaryottara Mukti, there are living entities who are in the spiritual world, but they don't have Krishna Prem. They don't have Prema. Okay, they are worshippers of Vishnu, but they have slight desire to enjoy the opulence and bliss of Vaikunta. So they don't have Krishna Prem. So if someone does not have Krishna Prem, they are not under the realm of control of Chit Shakti. They are still under the control of Tatastha Shakti only. So these Jivatmas, they are Tatastha Jivas, but they are Nitya Mukta. So there is a difference here made between Nitya Mukta and Nitya Parshadas. So these Nitya Muktas are actually Tatastha Jivas only. Okay. So that is the explanation that is given here. Then he discusses about various kinds of Mayavadi discussions. Then the question that Vrajanath asked was, did the Chit Shakti create the Jiva, endowing him with his intrinsic Tatastha Swabhav? Who created the Jiva? Is Jiva a product of Chit Shakti? Is he a creation of Chit Shakti? So he says, no. Chit Shakti, Raghunath Das Babaji says, the Chit Shakti is Purna Shakti and all the creations of Chit Shakti are eternally Purna or perfect. Therefore, but Tatastha Shakti is Apurna Shakti, and this Tatastha Jivas are products of the Apurna Shakti, which is Jiva Shakti, right? So then he says that this Nitya Baddha, this Nitya Baddha is there. When he takes up to particular sadhana, then he can become either a Nitya Parshada, not a Nitya Parshada. He experience the same bliss as a Nitya Parshada if he takes up to practice of pure devotional service and attains perfection of that. He can become a sadhana siddha parshada, but he cannot become a Nitya Parshada, right? And then you can say that or if he practices jnana sadhana or yoga sadhana, he can go and merge in the impersonal Brahmajyoti also, and then he will become a sadhana siddha mukta. He will not become a parshada, Nitya Parshada. Or this Nitya Baddha can take to practice of mixed devotional service, either Karma Mishra Bhakti or Mishra Bhakti, and he can go to Vaikuntha also and experience Sukhaishwaryottara Mukti or Prema Sevottara Mukti. That kind of mixed Mukti he can experience. In that case also he becomes a Nitya Mukta or a Sadhana Siddha Mukta, but not a Sadhana Siddha Parshada. A Parshada means one who directly assists Krishna or Lord Narayana in their pastimes, right? So they must be Krishna. They must have Krishna Prem through practice of pure devotional service only. Mixed devotional service, even though one can attain liberation, but they cannot become Parshadas, right? So at this point, I will pause to see if there are any quick comments, questions, because this is a important theme that we have discussed. Any quick comments, discussion points, questions? You can please raise your hands. Is it clear? Anyone has any questions? Okay. So if there are no discussion points, then we will move ahead. Okay. Then he discussed this point of, the products of Chit Shakti are eternally perfect. Therefore, the Jiva is not created by Chit Shakti. So, but he can become perfect by sadhana. So, by perfection, he can either become a sadhana siddha mukta in Brahmajyoti, or a sadhana siddha mukta in Vaikuntha, or a sadhana siddha parshada in Goloka or Vaikuntha, where if he attains that position by practicing pure devotional sadhana. This should be very clear. He says the 4 classes of Sakhis serving Srimati Radhika are Nitya Siddha. Srimati Radhika is Chit Shakti Swarupa, and her embodiment of the Chit Shakti, the embodiment of Chit Shakti, and her Nitya Siddha Sakhis are her Kaya Vyuha, direct personal expansion. These are the Kaya Vyuha Rupa. We have already seen that. And then he says that all the manifestations of Chit Shakti are complete and perfect, whereas all the manifestations of Jiva Shakti are incomplete and imperfect, right? So therefore, they are manifestations from the Tatastha Shakti, and they manifest from Karanodaka Sai Vishnu. We saw this, right? From Mahavishnu, the Tatastha Jivas manifest from Mahavishnu or Karanodaka Sai Vishnu, right? So Nitya Mukta, Nitya Baddha, and Sadhana Siddha. These are the 3 which manifest from Mahavishnu. They are all Tatastha Jivas, right? So then we discussed that then the next question that Brajanath asks is, earlier you explained that the spiritual world and the Jivas both are eternal. So then how come the eternal jivas take birth, appearance, and they appear. So if they take birth and appear, then they are certainly not eternal. So then why are they called eternal? Right? Raghunath Das Babaji says, he talks about the experience of material time and spiritual time. He says, in the material world, time is experienced in past, present, and future. But in the spiritual world, the experience of spiritual time, in the experience of spiritual time, there is only the experience of present and not past or future. Even though there is morning, there is afternoon, there is evening, there is night, and there is passage of seasons. There is Sharad Ritu, there is Vasanta Ritu, there is all kinds of Ritus, but still the experience of time is present only. What exactly it means, we will never be able to understand. Right? We will never be able to understand means till we reach the stage of bhava or prema, where we gain access to the spiritual time, we will not be able to understand this point. Okay, so therefore he says that in our captive conditioned states, this influence is very natural and to be expected. What is expected? Whatever spiritual subject matter is there, description is there, we will try to evaluate it based on our experience of material time and material space. And here Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, you will never, or Raghunath Das Babaji says, that you will never be able to understand spiritual subject matter when you try to understand it through your experience of material time and space. Okay. Then, so in that sense, even to understand the meaning of Nitya is very difficult, he says. So, so he says, I am aware of the fact that you cannot immediately comprehend the depths of this line of spiritual thought. As we discussed last time, there are certain things which can be understood only by biological maturity. Certain things which you can understand only through intellectual maturity. Similarly, certain things we can understand only by spiritual maturity. Unless we are spiritually matured, we cannot understand, right? So, but he says, however, as your devotional practice and spiritual attachment increase, your power to discriminate between matter and spirit will be sharpened, he says. When there is spiritual maturity, then the ability of that spiritually matured soul to discriminate between matter and spirit will become very sharp. That's what he is telling here. So he says, your body and its present activities are mundane, but in reality, you are not mundane. You are a spiritual entity. When you learn more about yourself, which means when you achieve the stage of self-realization, when you reach the stage of bhava and prema, then you can understand all these subject matters like that. Then, so this is where these are some relevant points from the 15th chapter. Now I'll share the 16th chapter and I will do a quick recap of what we have seen in it till now. So in the 16th chapter, further, Vrajanath asks, so if the jiva is of pure spiritual substance, why then does he have to descend into this degraded material world? This is the question. Okay. If the jiva is a pure spiritual substance, why then does he have to descend into this degraded material world? So, Srila Raghunath Das Babaji says that, look, this is due to the constitutional nature of the jiva is jivera swarubhoi krishnera nityadas. He is the eternal servant of Krishna. But for the tatastha jiva who has chosen to turn his face towards Maya, he becomes alienated from his real nature. And this alienation from this nature, from his real nature, is accomplished by the prakshepatmika avaranatmika shakti of Maya. So what does the avaranatmika shakti do? The avaranatmika shakti covers the jiva's original constitutional position. So the jiva will forget that he is jivera swarupoi krishnera nityadas. And what is the role of the prakshepatmika shakti? The prakshepatmika shakti makes that jiva who has forgotten about his constitutional position, it creates an alternative identity. He will make him identify with the subtle body and gross body. This is the role of prakshepatmika shakti, right? So that's what he says. So, and then he talks about, but these Nitya Parshad Jivas, because they are not at all in connection with Maya, therefore they are not at all vulnerable to the attack of Maya. Okay. And such living entities, Prema is their whole life and soul. But in terms of, in the case of the Tatastha Jivas, they emanate from Mahavishnu. And because they are neighbors of Maya, they can witness the variegatedness of material world also. And because of their minute size, and also because of having access to the Mayic world, they can choose either Krishna or Maya, right? And then within that, there are Nitya Muktas who have always chosen to stay away from Maya, and there are Nitya Baddhas who have chosen Maya. Now, so now the question that Vrajanath asks, the next question is that, why is it that some jivas turn towards Krishna and some jivas turn towards Maya? Amongst these Tatastha jivas, why is it that some people choose Maya, some people choose the spiritual world or the spiritual realm? Raghunath Das Babaji says, because of free will. Just like Krishna has free will, the Vibhinnamsha Jiva, the Jiva being a Vibhinnamsha of Krishna, he also has free will in minute quantity. Okay. And when he makes proper use of his independence, free will, then he is attracted to Krishna. But when he misuses his free will, then Maya takes over, and then through the Prakshepatmika Shakti and Avaranatmika Shakti, his original identity is covered, and the real identity is actually, and an alternative duplicate identity is created. So therefore, this whole cause of some jivas choosing Maya and some jivas choosing Krishna it boils down to the free will of the living entity. Now, Vrajanath asked this question. Krishna is Karunamaya. Krishna is very merciful. Why did he create such weak jivas who would become vulnerable to Maya? Why did he have to create such weak jivas when Krishna is? So Raghunath Das Babaji says, oh, Krishna is not just Karunamaya, Krishna is Leelamaya also. So therefore, he has created these jivas so that they can assist the Lord in his pastimes. So he has manifested these jivas so that they can assist in his pastimes. And then he says that these jivas, you are telling that they have been made weak. But Raghunath Das Babaji says, try to understand this. He has not made the jivas weak, but he has made them versatile. What do you mean by versatile? He says versatile means these jivas can degrade themselves to the position of being dull matter, and at the same time they can upgrade themselves to the level of Mahabhav, which means experiencing the same amount of bliss that Srimati Radharani only experiences. Even Krishna does not experience that level of bliss. So he has made them versatile to raise themselves from the most degraded state of being dull matter to the experience of Mahabhav. So, and not only that, not only has he given them the versatility or the capability to raise themselves, but he says he has given them the opportunity for the living entity to ascend by giving the Vedic scriptures, by himself descending to this material world, and by sending devotees who can come and help them elevate. So Krishna has given them the versatility. He has given them the opportunity. Not only that, he has given them this choice, free will. You can choose. If you want to elevate yourself, you can elevate yourself. If you want to degrade yourself, you degrade yourself. You have a choice. So here Raghunath Das Babaji says, no, yeah, he is not just Karunamaya, he is Leelamaya also. So therefore, he likes to perform various Leelas, and he likes to engage the living entities also in those Leelas. And in that way, he has engaged the Jivatmas in his Leela. And don't think that, and you accuse the Supreme Lord of making the Jivas weak, but he has not made the Jivas weak. He has actually made them versatile, and he has given them the opportunity to elevate themselves, and he is not forcing them to elevate themselves. He is giving them the free choice. So where is the question of um, where is the question of uh, you know utilizing the jivas for his own leela, making the jivas suffer for his own leela? So then did we discuss the next question? Why must the individual souls suffer so that the Lord can enjoy his leelas? Did we discuss this question, or this is where we stopped? Anyone remembers?
No, bro.
We didn't discuss, right?
In this forum, I think.
Yeah, in this forum, we have not discussed yet. Okay. Okay. So this is where we are going to start now. Vrajanath has a very, very pertinent question. Why the individual jivas are made to suffer in this material world so that the Lord can enjoy his leelas? Okay, that's what we're going to discuss now. But before we start that discussion, till now, based on whatever we discussed, any quick comments, questions, discussion points? You can please raise your hands. Anyone would like to ask something? Even if you have not understood anything, you can please ask, Prabhu, I have not understood anything. Can you please re-explain? So we can do that also. But because it's a little bit technical subject matter, so it may take some time. So if you don't understand, you can ask, no problem. Okay. So there is one hand up, and there are some questions in the chat box also. I'll take that also. Arpita Mataji, go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Prabhuji, my question is, you explained that the difference between Nitya Muktas and Nitya Parshadas, that Nitya Parshadas, they are under the control of Chit Shakti, whereas they are under the Nitya Muktas are under the control of Tatashta Shakti. So, Nitya Muktas means they are under the control of Tatashta Shakti. Even in Vaikuntha, those who don't have prema, they are also under the control of Tatashta Shakti. So then, Prabhuji, then there is a chance that they can come to this material world.
Well, but they are still far away from the Maic world. So in order to get attracted, proximity is also needed, right? There is no proximity. So either from Brahmajyoti or from Vaikunta, even though they are Tatastha Jivas, they have not yet been come under the control of Chit Shakti, but still proximity to the material world is not there. So that will keep them safe in one sense.
Means Prabhuji, proximity to the material world means for all the jivas, we all originated from the Viraja only, na? From the spiritual world only. Then it is the same case now for those who are in Brahm Jyoti and for us who originated from Mahavishnu or Viraja river. The same case only. The proximity point, how does it matter in that case?
Okay. When you talk about proximity, you are thinking in terms of material space again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is not like that. It is not just physical proximity. In one sense, it is like somehow they are shielded. It's not like they have a constant choice like that. So once they have chosen, for some reason, they are they just remain there.
Though once they have chosen, they had a choice. So that's why they are called Tatastha, because they once had a choice. They once had that option to make.
They still have a choice in one sense, but they don't have much like for example, like say for example, in one sense, I was of course I've been interested. I've always been interested in sports, but somehow I've never been so exposed to or never had much opportunity to play video games as such. And this last week I had visited one devotee's house, and I was just interacting with their children, and the son was showing me various video games. I was asking him, what are your interests? And then he was showing me, and he was just telling me, I play this video game, and he was explaining various characters of the video of that video game and things like that. So in one sense, till then I had never ever played a video game in one sense, even though I had interest in other sports, physical sports, not so much. But because the purification is not there, so there is a potential vulnerability. So even though the physical proximity is not there, so this Tatastha Jiva has not been nourished by the Chit Shakti yet. So when he becomes nourished by the Chit Shakti, then he becomes non-vulnerable. I don't know, is it invulnerable, non-vulnerable? Okay, whatever. He becomes non-vulnerable to be attacked by Maya. So that is how the Nitya Parshadas can descend to this material world. And even though there is proximity, there is no vulnerability.
But Nitya Muktas are vulnerable, na? They can come.
Nitya Muktas are vulnerable, but because of lack of proximity, they will not come.
They will not come. Means that is why only they are called Nitya Muktas, no? Eternally liberated. That's why
but eternally liberated, but not nourished by the Chit Shakti.
Yeah, that is not nourished, but still okay, fine. Thank you, Prabhuji.
So they can stay in Brahma Jyoti, or they can stay in Vaikunta, experiencing some Sukha and Aishwarya of Vaikunta, but they will never be able to experience the Chit Shakti in the form of Hladini, Samvit and Sandhini.
Okay, unless they somehow they get the association and they somehow desire to love Lord like that. Okay, Prabhuji. And then Prabhuji, the second question is that
and talking about Prabhupada telling that they fall down from Brahma Jyoti, the jivas. So in one sense, because they have not been nourished by the Chit Bala, the Chit Shakti, the potentiality is always there. There is potential to fall down when proximity is there. But why would that proximity be unnecessarily created? But in potentially, but that jiva which has been nourished by the Chit Shakti, there is absolutely no potential also to fall down. That is the point.
Yes, Prabhuji. Okay, Prabhuji. And then Prabhuji, the second point is that Lord is Karuna May as well as Leela May. So that's why he has made some jivas eternally as Nitya Parshadas and some jivas as Tatashta jivas. So Lord means with these Tatashta jivas, the Lord is playing the Leela of Patita Pavana right now.
He also, yeah,
Yeah.
the Tatastha Jivas can experience the Patita Pavan aspect of the Supreme Lord. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Okay, Prabhuji. And then Prabhuji, this explanation which is given I don't know if it is covered in this or Brihad Bhagavatam. I will ask after you cover this next portion.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you, Prabhuji.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Okay, there is Redmi Note 4. I'm unmuting you.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna. Dandavat.
So these Nitya Siddhas who are there, they don't have a Krishna prem. They are just enjoying the space of Vaikuntha. What do they do, Prabhuji?
What do they do?
Yeah.
They worship Krishna.
So
They worship Lord Narayana. It's not that they don't have bhakti, because without bhakti they cannot go there.
okay.
Bhakti is there, but it is not pure. If it is not pure bhakti, they have some alternative desires also.
I mean, like what alternative desire?
When
Being supreme themselves.
huh?
What alternative
No.
desire?
They don't want to become supreme themselves. They totally accept the superiority of the Lord, and they worship the Lord. But they also, after hearing the descriptions of the bliss of Vaikuntha and the opulence of Vaikuntha, they have some desire to experience it. Even though it may be, it is what they are aspiring for is spiritual bliss and spiritual opulence, but nevertheless the desire is selfish. There is an element of selfishness in that desire.
I mean, what is the outcome of that desire?
Outcome of the desire is they can go to Vaikuntha, but they will not experience Krishna Prem. They can remain general devotees. Like now we are devotees.
Yes.
We don't have Krishna Prem.
Yes.
Right? Yet, I think probably most of us.
I'm talking about myself only.
Yeah. So we don't have Krishna Prem, but still we are devotees, right? We want to serve Krishna. We want to please Krishna. So that desire they also have, but they are slightly mixed devotees. They are Karma Mishra Bhaktas or Jnana Mishra Bhaktas, like that. So, but because they are devotees and Krishna has promised, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan Pitran Yanti Pitru Vrata, Bhutani Yanti Bhutejya Yanti Madhyajinopi Mam. Because Krishna says that if you worship me, you will come to me. And they are actually worshippers of Krishna. But just that they are not worshipping Krishna purely for establishing a relationship with Krishna. That is the difference. So they get to go to that world, go to the spiritual world, but they will not establish a very concrete relationship with Krishna. They will not establish a concrete relationship with Krishna. That will not be there.
Personal relationship.
Personal relationship will not be there.
I mean, won't he get frustrated if because if it's not getting personal relationship?
Well,
what will be the outcome of the jiva's frustration there?
Well, now I will ask you a counter question, Mataji.
Yes.
There are unlimited number of living entities existing in the material world. You can go and take a survey and ask how many of them are frustrated and how many of them want to leave this material world. I mean, I'm sure you don't have to physically go and take a survey. I'm sure you know the answer. Even people living in the material world don't want to leave this material world. Don't want to, even though if they may have a diseased body, they don't want to give up this diseased body also. So if that is the case with people staying in the material world, why do you think people who are in the spiritual world experiencing a far more greater level of bliss and opulence, why would they get frustrated there?
So that means there is no chance of falling down.
No.
One more question, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
We say unless we have a prema for Krishna, we cannot be Nitya Parshadas. Now,
Yeah.
Putana, she was
Mhm.
nowhere. How? I mean, what is she? How is she serving Lord there? How is she? What is she doing there with Lord?
See, Putana's case, okay. For this, I will have to speak from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is described that sometimes people, the demons who are killed by Krishna, generally they get Sayujya Mukti only. Sayujya Mukti is impersonal liberation. They merge in the Brahmajyoti. But in some rare cases, Krishna can also give them some personal roles in the spiritual world. Like in the case of Putana, he gave her the role of being a nurse. Even though she's playing a personal role, but the experience of bliss that she experiences will be on the level of the bliss of Brahmajyoti only, not more than that.
Okay.
So it is like in prison you have a particular quality of food, prison food you get, okay, and in the outside world you can have your own lunch box and you can have your own food whatever you want. So the case of demons sometimes who get sometimes Sarupya Mukti or Salokya Mukti, their case is that it's like they have their own lunch box, but in that lunch box there will be prison food only. You see, like even though they may stay in the same planet as Krishna, but still the level of bliss that they will experience will not be of the Vaikuntha Vasis.
How is it possible?
It will.
If we are at the same place, because I mean it's not a material world. Like you said, there is no past, present, future in the spiritual.
I mean, no. Their experience will be different. I will give you an example. If I am in the association of my mother, father, and sister, my experience of bliss is very, very powerful, rather than if I am in the association of strangers. So now, if you are in the association of my father, mother, and siblings, will you be also blissful like me?
No.
Why not? If I could be blissful in the in a particular place, in the particular association, why can't you be blissful?
Prabhuji, that is it's only the quality of material world, because there is a relativity.
No, it is not. It is the nature of Vaikuntha. It is the nature of people who stay in Vaikuntha. I will give you examples. You must have studied Bhagavatam, right? At least heard Bhagavatam. So what happened to Durvasa Muni when he was in Vaikuntha?
Yes.
Right? He was in Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is supposed to be a place which is free from anxieties, right?
Correct.
But Durvasa Muni felt the maximum anxiety when he was in Vaikuntha. So it is not the nature of place. It is the nature of people who are allowed entry into that place.
Okay.
It's just like, you go to IIT, you enter into an IIT campus and you see, wow, he's so brilliant, he's so brilliant, he's so brilliant, he's so brilliant. And you conclude that, well, I think if anyone who enters into this campus will become brilliant, right? But it is not like that. It is not the nature of the place. It is the nature of people who are allowed entry into that place.
I had a question about Durvasa Muni, why he was miserable
given
there
entry.
also. Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for clarifying.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Any hands up? I don't see any hands up. So I did see Gopinath Pran Prabhu raising his hands, but maybe his question was answered. That's why I don't see his hands up again. So here there is a question in the chat box. which was from last class discussion. The question is of versatility of jivas and free will of jivas. Then what about the free will of Nitya Parshadas and the Chit Shakti Swarupa? So, and the second question we have already taken. When we use the term Nitya Siddhas, is it the same as Nitya Mukta or Nitya Parshadas? Well, you have to ask the person who is using that terminology. So therefore, you have to ask him, what do you mean Nitya Siddha? You mean Nitya Mukta or Nitya Parshada? I think it's better to ask, because people may use it in different ways. Now let's come to the first question. We thought actually the Nitya Parshadas, Krishna is showing partiality towards the Nitya Parshadas because they never come in touch with the material world, so they never make a wrong choice and they are always happy. So this was the at the first look, it looked like Krishna is more inclined towards the Nitya Parshadas. He is showing partiality towards them. Now, after hearing this versatility argument given by Raghunath Das Babaji, no, he has not made them weak, but he has made them versatile. And he has given them the free choice. He says, don't underestimate the free will of the living entity. Free will is the greatest jewel. Now, after hearing this argument, it seems like Krishna is more partial towards the Tatastha Jivas, because the Tatastha Jivas seem to have free will to choose between Maya and Krishna. And that versatility seems to be not there in the Nitya Parshadas. So is Krishna more partial towards the Tatastha Jivas by giving them this versatility and free will, but he has made the Nitya Parshadas not so versatile and no free will, right? That is a question. But the point is that it is not that the Nitya Parshadas don't have free will. They may not have free will within the domain. They may not have the free will of choosing of having to choose between Krishna and Maya, but within the realm of having to choose from Krishna, they have choice. They have choice to serve Krishna in any particular way. It's not like they are like robots that they have no choice. They have no choice within a particular realm, right? So this is, in one sense, I mean, it is like a trade-off. Like I was sharing this, I was giving this example. Like Bill Gates may have two sons. Okay, one of the son, he decides that, look, you will inherit my property fully, and you enjoy. And the other son, he will say, I will not give you, I will give you a very small, insignificant inheritance. You will have to enroll. You can enroll in my company only, and you can take a salary, and you raise yourself using your own intelligence and this thing. So now, in one sense, you see there is advantage and disadvantage in both cases. The advantage of the person who inherits is that he does not have to really suffer so much. But at the same time, I am giving a very mundane example. Please don't pull the Nitya Parshadas to our level of understanding. But I am just to make a point, I am giving this example, but the Nitya Parshadas are not like that. So don't extrapolate this analogy that I am giving to the realm of Nitya Parshadas, but just to make a point that, but this person who inherits the money, complex, like I don't know if you ever seen son of Mukesh Ambani. I think he weighs like 150 kilos or 200 kilos, really huge. I'm sure it must have had something to do with, no work and only calories going inside, probably. I don't know. Maybe he has some other physical issues. I don't know, maybe. but I'm just guessing that, it must have something to do with getting everything free of cost, and, not having to work at all and having no physical work maybe. And the other person, so this is the disadvantage. So everything has a flip side, and the other person who is made to rise up using his own intelligence and energy, the disadvantage is that he will go through periods where he will have to suffer and fend for himself. But when he rises up, then there is a kind of satisfaction which the Nitya Parshadas, I won't say Nitya Parshadas, the other son who inherited, he may not get. So what I'm telling is, don't exactly apply it to the Nitya Parshadas and the Sadhana Siddhas. But the point is that Krishna, in his own way, he actually shows his mercy to both kinds of living entities. How exactly, we will never know, at least as of now. But the point is, we can at least appreciate our own position of having the opportunity to exercise our free will, possessing the versatility to raise ourselves to that position, and we can be grateful for the opportunity that Krishna gives. Like that. So opportunity, versatility, and the free will, like that. Okay, Radha Pramod Prabhu. Radha Pramod Prabhu?
Yes, bro. I also feel like what it was shared before, that Lord want to show his and this quality of compassion. So that is
Yeah.
only possible when this opportunity is there for the Lord. So when Lord
Yeah.
makes this arrangement, like he is making some living entities Nitya Parshada, some living entities as Kaya Vyuha Rupa, like his own internal chit potency, and some living entities like that. So it is all in every expansion of his different energies, he is experiencing a different type of
Leela.
pleasure. Yeah,
Yeah.
Leela.
Yeah.
So Lord is like Leelamai. So he can have Leelas in different ways. So this is a one way of his experiencing of pleasure.
Pleasure.
Having somebody like sometimes mother is seeing the child is sometime in trouble and coming to him. So there is a pleasure mother experiences when the child comes in that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some children are always with the mother. They never go out, and that is also a
Mm.
pleasure for the mother. And there can be somebody in between. So there are different rasas we experience in different situations. So Lord
Correct.
also
Correct.
experiences this rasa when he comes and he wants to show his compassion. So to exhibit his compassion, he need to have a arrangement like this. So that is Leela is
Yeah.
arranging for this opportunity. So everything is possible. If this is not there, that means it is not complete. It is not absolute.
Yeah.
Absolute means
Yeah.
there should be jiva also. There should be something tatastha also. Then only it can be called complete. We cannot say this should not be there in Lord. So you should make an
Yeah.
arrangement
Yeah.
like this also.
And of course, that Lord would have superior intelligence. And to have superior intelligence means there will be certain things which we will not be able to understand also about why he does. He will not, we should not think that the Lord's actions should fit in my sense of justice. So certain things may fit, certain things may not fit. But if we think that everything that the Lord does should fit in my sense of justice, then which means which means actually in reality our intelligence is only our God. It is not Krishna actually. So as Jiva Goswami says that unless you start accepting the achintya nature of the Supreme Lord, you have not even become a theist, he says. If you cannot accept, if you have not accepted, if you are not willing to accept the achintya nature of God, then you are not a theist, he says. You are an atheist. Which means why? Because you may say that you accept God, but in reality you are thinking God is just another human being whose actions should be completely intelligible to you. So just like a human being's action may not be intelligible to a to an ant or a mosquito, what to speak of that? Even a mosquito's actions are not intelligible to human beings unless they do some research. Even if they do some research, they may think that they have understood the mosquito's intelligence, but probably they have not also. So therefore he says that if you are not willing to accept the achintya nature of Krishna, you are an atheist actually. So why should every action of the Lord be intelligible to us like that?
So like we can have one more means somebody can ask, okay, Lord at least could have explained, like now to get this level of understanding what you are explaining, it's not just a very simple explanation. It's not very simple for anybody to understand, and it is not very directly mentioned anywhere. It requires so much of tapasya to at least to come to this level, and even to understand what is said also requires some element of some purity and so some tapasya. So uh, means it things are made very complicated. It looks like it's not so easy and not direct. Even the shastras are not direct, and it's all paroksha. It's all indirectly explaining, and you have to put your intelligence, heart, or it is like, or it can be said that okay, if somebody surrenders, then everything is clear for him. Until unless he surrenders, then things are very complicated for him. Is it like that?
No, because why should things be intelligible without qualification? Even in the material world, without qualification, things are not intelligible. One cannot say, I have never gone to school. Now you can explain to me quantum mechanics. Who is going to explain? Even in the material world, material science is also like that. Without qualification, things are not intelligible. So similarly, but the nature of qualification may differ in the spiritual realm and the material realm, but the principle of being qualified, as you rightly identified, surrender is a qualification. So when surrender, then people can then they can understand Krishna to some extent, to the extent that Krishna allows himself to be understood by that particular living entity. So things are things complicated? Well, yes, and for a purpose. They are complicated for a particular purpose, because without proper qualification, why do you want to know about Krishna when you don't want to establish a relationship with him? What will you do? Even understanding Krishna, right? So Krishna will reveal. Even a stranger, a human being will not reveal anything about himself to you if he does not have the trust that you are his well-wisher and friend. So why should Krishna also reveal? It's not needed.
Yeah, like people don't want to know, and they are not sincere, and another is like they are qualified, and like yesterday I was talking with Gorang Pro. He was telling that this is very simple, but it is so simple that you will miss it. And he was also telling that when he presented some of his research work in front of one group of team, then they and another devotee said he presented in 25 pages, another person presented in some 500 pages. He said only this much. He said it's this much only. So he was telling that it is so simple that you will miss it, because you need because sometimes it looks complicated, but if we are simple, Lord will make it so simple and sure. Like now when you explained this about different levels of living entities, and you made the chart, and when it was divided and clearly explained, the things are so clear. And like yesterday's discussion on astrology also, when you understand that one point, how Krishna is acting, all other answers you can just direct in that way, and it becomes things are so open, it's so clear. Yes, so thank you.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. So okay, so that brings us to recap end of recap. 1.5 hours have passed. So we have another half an hour to cover some portions for the day. So let's try to do that. Now, the next question asked by Vrajanath is, why must the individual souls suffer so that the Lord can enjoy his leelas? So Raghunath Das Babaji Maharaj says, one should consider that to possess and exercise free will is indeed special grace of Sri Krishna. He says, don't just see in terms of suffering, but see in terms of the opportunity to make your choice. He says, inert matter is without free will, hence it is non-essential and extraneous. Right? So I'm sure most of you are working either in office or, and you may have, some of you may have your own business or your own clinic, so you don't have a boss above you. But just imagine a situation where you have a boss who tells you, who is absolutely micromanaging, and he tells you everything, and whatever he says only you can do. Okay, but at the same time, if there is a mistake, he will take responsibility. Okay, but you are not allowed to do anything other than what he says. Okay, and there is another case where your boss gives you freedom to make your choice, and he says, but you should take responsibility for any mistakes. Take responsibility for mistakes, but at the same time you have an opportunity to, I will not micromanage your life, I will give you freedom. So now my question is, whom would what kind of boss would you choose? Would you choose a boss who is micromanaging, but will not allow you to make any mistakes, or would you choose a boss who is giving you freedom but expect you to take responsibility for that you may make? In the chat box, option A, option B. Option A is the micromanaging boss. Option B is the boss who would give you freedom. Of course, along with the flip sides in both the cases. Can you type in the chat box how many of you would choose B? How many of you would choose A? So I have, till now I have received 3 answers. All 3 have said B, but I see there are 15 other devotees, that 12 more devotees. Can you please bother to just type on the chat box? Okay, others, I am receiving other more answers. Everyone is telling B, 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 right? So that is a point here. Okay, Radha Damodar Prabhu says A. So now I want to class chal raha hai. So now there is a Radha Damodar Prabhu says A, but he will have some very special answer to this. Prabhu, please go ahead, unmute yourself and tell me why A.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Prabhu.
So I say, if somebody is taking responsibility.
Before you answer your question, I will ask you one more question.
Okay, Prabhu.
Would you want the choice to choose your master, or would you be willing to follow any master?
Yeah, I would like to have a choice.
That's exactly what I was asking.
Yeah, I think this same situation we had earlier also in
right?
one of our classes.
You what does you say? What does your the caption in your, what do you call that, the WhatsApp message? What does it say? I am the shoe carrier of the non-duplicitous Vaishnava, right? Something like that.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. So but you will choose, na? You will not carry the you will not carry the, you will not want to be the master of anyone. So you would want to choose your master, right?
Right,
Once you
Prabhu.
choose your master, then you exercise your free will to follow whatever he says. But what if you don't have a choice to choose your master also? Will you happily follow whatever anyone says?
No.
Yeah, that is the point.
Right.
So that is the point. So here, that is what here it is mentioned that that one should consider that to possess and exercise free will is indeed a special grace of Sri Krishna. So basically what he is trying to tell Vrajanath is that, hey, why should, Vrajanath is asking, why should the individual soul suffer so that the Lord can enjoy his leelas? So he says, don't see from that point of view. Just think about what if the Lord would have made you into an inert matter in the spiritual world, but with no option of exercising free will. Of course, there is no inert matter without free will in the spiritual world. Whatever you see that looks like inert matter is all completely conscious and they have free will. Like if you see in Goloka Vrindavan, the earth of Goloka Vrindavan, it uses its free will to become warm during winters and nice and cool during summers to give the perfect walking experience for Krishna. So they have free will and they have opportunity to exercise that free will also. Okay. But let's, for theory's sake, let's say that there are similar dull matter in the spiritual world. Who would want to become a dull matter, right? That so like that. So he says that don't see it as suffering, but see it as an opportunity to have choice, exercise your free will. The jiva, on the other hand, by asserting his free will, has attained the position of lordship over the material world, right? And when he chooses the material world by exercising his free will, then along with that choice, you will get head and tails both. You will get suffering and you will get pleasure, which are different conditions of the mind. What we call suffering, another person attached to the same condition will define as pleasure. But the final outcome of all material pleasure, however, is pain, right? So that is because of your choice. That's what he says. The materially engrossed person accumulates only misery in the end, and upon experiencing the worsening of his situation, he desires undiluted, endless happiness. Intensification of this desire arouses his conscience and power of discrimination, leading to inquisitiveness and inquiry into ultimate reality. So he's telling now how this material energy works. He says material energy gives you suffering of this material world, but when the suffering continues and continues, at some point the person becomes frustrated and he thinks, is there a way of escaping it? Okay. And this attitude of sincere inquiry may lead him towards sadhu sangha. Okay. And in that sadhu sangha, he will get shraddha. And then when he gets that shraddha, he will start endeavoring towards achieving spiritual perfection. And then he will come back. So that way, Krishna has created this. It's just like in our Brihad Bhagavatamrita class, I was giving the same example. There is a person. There is a frog on the pathway, on the road, in the middle of the road. Okay, so there are two people who there is one father and two sons. Okay, and all three of them are, the father says, look, the frog, poor frog, if he stays in the middle of the road, someone may walk over it, or a vehicle may run over that frog and the poor frog will die. So then the two sons says, yes, yes, you are right, father. We should try to somehow uh, protect the frog. So the father says, look, do one thing. Uh, he says to the first son, you take a stick and try to chase that frog away from the road. And then he tells the other son, bring a pot of water, in a big pot of water, and stay on the side of the road. So the first son takes the stick and goes behind the frog. The frog thinks, why is this fellow behind me? Why is he not allowing me to live peacefully? I will not go. I will stay here only. And then the first son starts prodding the frog with his stick. And then he feels all the more inconvenienced. And he thinks, why the hell are you doing like this? And then very reluctantly, he keeps moving. And at the end of the road, he finds a bowl of water, and without having any other choice, he jumps into that bowl of water. And he feels, wow, this is very nice. This is much better than staying in the middle of the road, like that he thinks. Now, if you see, this is an allegorical presentation. Just like Narada Muni gave the allegory of Puranjan. This is an allegory. The father is Krishna. And who is that person with stick in his hand? Who is that person with stick in his hand? You can type on the chat box. Who is that son who is chasing that frog with the stick in the hand? That is Maya Devi. Okay. And who is that second son who is standing on the side of the road with a water pot? That is the devotee. Right? So you may think that Maya is my enemy and the devotee is my friend, but Maya Devi and the devotee are engaged in the same, they are there in the same mission to reclaim the fallen souls. So the suffering that is experienced by the jiva due to the prodding of Maya is not our enemy. Maya Devi is our friend, actually. If we understand it clearly, but why is the frog not seeing that first son as friend? Why is the frog not seeing the first son as friend? Can you think about it? Can you think about it? You can type on the chat box. I will read. Why is the frog not able to see the first son as a friend, as a well-wisher? Why is the frog seeing the second son as the well-wisher? Because okay, I am receiving some answers. One answer is because he is not able to see the other option of water. So even if he may see the option of water, he may not still see. Okay, because he's making the frog feel very uncomfortable. Yeah, but when he sees the father instructing both the sons what to do, and when he understands the plan of the father and how both the sons are engaged in the same mission by accepting the directions of the Shastras, then he can see. So then the living entity will see that Maya is not my enemy. Yeah, as Achyut Gopal Prabhu says, because he can't understand the full plan. He can't understand the full plan and he's seeing only inconvenience, right? So that is the point, right? So in this sense, so therefore, the attitude of sincere inquiry leads to sadhu sangha. And why did he start becoming sincerely sincere? Why did he start the sincere inquiry? Because of the trouble given by Maya Devi, right? Therefore, he says suffering is ultimately a boon. Impure gold is purified by firing and repeated hammering, right? By firing and repeated hammering, impure gold is purified. Similarly, when the jiva is contaminated by the fancy to enjoy his senses to the extreme, making him turn away from Krishna, he needs to be purified by the fire and hammering of excruciating material experiences. This is the point. So when he wants to enjoy, he needs to be purified by the fire and hammering of excruciating material experiences. In this sense, the suffering of a gross materialist are auspicious and the mercy of the Lord. For a gross materialist, it is actually mercy of the Lord. Therefore, the misery suffered by the jiva in the pastimes of Shri Krishna is considered as good and beneficial by far-sighted visionaries. So basically, Vrajanath's question was, why should the jiva suffer so that Krishna can enjoy his Leela? So here, a part of Krishna's Leela is to elevate the jiva only. When suffering comes, that suffering is actually bliss only, right? While the myopic materialists abhor it as deathly suffering. Okay, so this is the explanation. Radha Pramod Prabhu.
Prabhu, like now, say you gave this analogy in this. So my question is, now the sun is using the stick to take the frog in right direction. Now, see, now what Maya is doing, she is keeping a person in hell and giving him all sorts of punishment so that he come out of it. But the maximum pain a living entity can get is staying in hell or getting conditioned to hell. So now the stick that is using is also what Maya is using is, if you compare with that, it is like hell only. So Maya is putting a living entity in hell. Or if it is getting, so from what Maya is protecting, if the Maya is putting a person in hell, Maya want to protect the living entity from hell only, or Maya want to protect the living entity from getting conditioned to hell. Because if Maya using some tool, the Maya's tool is hell, and so that the living entity should not. So what is the purpose of Maya in hell? So that the only purpose is that he should not get conditioned to hell and he should get conditioned to the spiritual world. That is the only purpose.
Yeah.
Because the tool itself is the hell.
Correct. So the point is that in doing that, still when we see that people becoming conditioned by the Mayic world also, that is also in one sense not the complete plan. You know, it's still because the Krishna scheme of things is very, very broad. We may have a vision of just you know, a short duration of time or a small part of that plan. The overall plan is eventually the devotee will come, Krishna will descend and perform his pastimes, and also the Vedic scriptures will be there. So in this way, somehow or other, Krishna will try to enchant the conditioned soul so that he will turn his face towards him.
Like Kapila Dev says, the greatest danger for a living entity is to getting conditioned to the hellish conditions of the world. So that is the
He does not say that. He does not say that. He says even in hell, people don't want to give up their body. He says, Narakastopi deham vai puman natyaktum ichchati. He says.
Means they are getting conditioned to it. Means they are happy being there.
Till a better level of happiness is given.
Option is given.
Option is given. And that is
they
given
don't
actually.
Understand also. Sometimes if you like a hog, we say you give him, it will take, like it will only take stool. Even if you give very hot halwa, even it will not choose because it got conditioned to such conditionings that
Correct.
it cannot choose it. So this is the greatest danger for a living entity. So Maya want to protect. That's why it is giving some suffering so that okay, he will
so that he will not get conditioned. Yeah.
So
Quite. Yeah. Right. so that he will not get conditioned to.
Conditioned. So that is the
Yeah.
greatest danger. So that he will know that okay, we have alternative. Like now, if I don't get problem, then I'll think okay, this is good. Why I should go to Vaikunta? I'll stay here only here. Means whatever
Mm.
facility I have my office, I have my whatever I am getting my food and all. So if I'm
Mm.
facing some trouble, then I'll start thinking of alternative. Otherwise, I'll not think. I'll get conditioned to whatever situation I am here.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct. 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 Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Then there is a question in the chat box, but most of the time we see the stick of Maya instead of taking us closer to the cool water of the devotees. And most of the time we see that the stick of Maya, instead of taking us closer to the cool water of the devotees, it makes us jump to the complete opposite side of the road, more bound and entangled in the material world. How to understand this? Okay. So, again, Krishna does not want to orchestrate the whole thing, because the devotee who is involved, he also has his free will. The devotee is not like a non, you can say like a inanimate tool in the hands of Krishna. Even though Krishna says Nimitta Matram Bhavasavya Sachin, oh Arjuna, become an instrument in my hands, but Arjuna, but the devotee is not an inanimate instrument in the hands of Krishna. The devotee also has free will. So the devotee has to utilize his free will and come to that place and help that jiva. So, and also in one sense, we are seeing only a very small, you can say like as the duration of time is very small. Most of the time that we think maybe a few years or maximum a few decades. But in the overall scheme of things, how Krishna is plotting, we will never know. So that will take time. It will not take time. That actually we have to accept with trust, and just that we don't have that bird's eye view that Krishna is having. So the only thing that we can do is actually to give him the benefit of doubt, that yes, I may not know, because ultimately he will put you in the right situation, but many times we may respond in an inappropriate way. So Krishna has to then again redesign another opportunity, and then hope that we will exercise our free will in the right way. So, but then we'll have to exercise our free will. So then we are just oversimplifying things, but there it's much more complicated than that. And another thing is, even our perception is a myopic perception. We don't have the bird's eye view that Krishna is having. So what we see as actually something unfortunate may be actually Krishna's plot to actually at some stage make us make the right choice. So that thing we have to accept, that even though we may see, it may seem like we are choosing the wrong choice, but it is all Krishna laying the foundation, so that eventually we will get sufficiently frustrated, so that we will make the right choice. And in the meantime, a devotee may also come, and we are so much ripe with suffering that when the devotee comes, it becomes all the more easier for us to trust that devotee and accept what he says. Yeah. Radha Pramod Prabhu wants to share an example. Go ahead, Prabhu.
So this Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj was sharing when the Bhagavad Gita was banned where they was planning to ban Bhagavad Gita in Russia.
Yeah.
So then this question was asked when he came to Chopati Bhagavatam class, why this happened. So Maharaj said this was exactly Krishna's plan, because first thing he said is devotees started forgetting Bhagavad Gita. They said they started reading so many other things. When this thing came that Bhagavad Gita is going to ban, immediately all the devotees they developed a feeling for Bhagavad Gita, and they were and within 2 days, all the Bhagavad Gitas in the stock was sold, and all the devotees became united on this ground, and also their faith on Bhagavad Gita increased, because now it was questioned. So immediately their faith increased, and not only that, it became so famous. And after that, he was telling in Indian Parliament, that is the first time in whole of history of Indian Parliament, all the Parliament became united and they passed a resolution. And then just one day before the hearing in Russian court, this was passed. So then Russian government interfered and they cancelled this banning and all. So he was telling it was such a turmoil for all devotees. We were in so much anxiety and everything was happening. But at the end, the result we could not see, but the result was very nice. It became so popular and so many sold. And he was telling the person who made this issue, we want to give him a trophy because of him, everything happened. So they could not see initially, it was such a big, heavy thing for them. But main thing, Maharaj was telling, devotees started forgetting Bhagavad Gita. They are reading everything about.
That is the point. Actually, you know what? It should happen in India also. It should actually start happening in India also. They should start. I mean, I'm not telling they should. I mean, I hope none of you will take a small part of this clip and put it on YouTube or something. So the point is, they should actually start banning our spiritual books, Srila Prabhupada's books, so that at least we'll start, can unite our devotees, and rather than reading all other things from here and there, they will start taking our books more seriously, like that. Anyway, okay, so let us go to the next question. Vrajanath asks, okay, I agree that the sufferings of the conditioned jivas are ultimately beneficial, but presently it is very painful, right? Ultimately beneficial, okay, we agree, but presently it is very painful. Was it not within the means of the omnipotent Supreme Lord Shri Krishna to change this torturous path of material existence into an easier one? Was it beyond the scope of Krishna? Why should he put the living entities into this torturous path and eventually make it very beneficial? Why can't it be, let the path be pleasant and the end also be pleasant, right? So now at this point of time, Raghunath Das Babaji says, look, the Leelas of Shri Krishna are unlimited and variegated. Hence, this is also another of his many unique activities. So now he is not trying to give an explanation. He is seeking justice. Yeah. So he says that initially he gave some explanations. Now he is telling, look, ultimately the Lord is independent and the Lord's intelligence is superior to ours. That's what he's indicating. When the supreme autocrat, you see, what is the meaning of autocrat? The supremely independent person, the one who makes all the decisions, right? When the supreme autocrat willfully engages in a kaleidoscope of pastimes, why should it be unusual for him to enact this particular pastime? Why can't he enact this pastime? Is the Supreme Lord bound by your sense of justice? Right? He is the supreme autocrat. Do you think you are the autocrat? You will tell the Lord what pastime to perform, what pastime not to perform. Okay. So he says, if the principle of variegated leelas is kept intact, not a single type of leela can be rejected. If the Lord can perform every type of leela, then he can perform this leela also. Whatever the leela, the participants assisting the Lord have to accept. The supreme autocrat is, if say a king wants to go from one place to another place, the people who are assisting the king, the palanquin bearers, they have to lift the palanquin and go, and it may not be very pleasant for them. He says, Shri Krishna is the Purusha, the supreme enjoyer and absolute master. all the upakaranas or the participants and paraphernalia are fully under the control of the Purusha and are the working tools of the Supreme Creator. Okay, so we all are nimittas, Krishna's instruments. In fully surrendering oneself to the sweet will of the Supreme Lord, it is only natural that one may have to accept adversities also, right? So a knife in the hands of a person, it can be sometimes used to cut a cake, and sometimes it can be used to cut a Karela sabji also, right? So, or sometimes it can be used to attack a thief also. So therefore, the point is that when we have voluntarily surrendered to become the instruments in Krishna's hands, sometimes we may have to accept adversities also. But if finally this material adversity turns into an auspicious state that is far from miserable, then why ultimately should one call it adversity? So one part of the answer that he gives is, look, Krishna's plan you cannot understand. Second thing is, if ultimately this suffering eventually leads to an auspicious end, then why you should call it an adversity? That is what he's asking. On the transcendental platform, the tribulations of the jiva, while trying to satisfy the Lord in his pastimes, are by all accounts pleasurable, right? On the transcendental platform, the tribulations or the sufferings of the jiva in his endeavor to please the Lord or satisfy the Lord in his pastimes are definitely pleasurable. Yet the conditioned soul, by misuse of his free will, denies himself the exaltation one experiences whilst directly assisting Sri Krishna in his transcendental pastimes, right? So even though ultimately it becomes pleasurable, but the condition because of his adamantly wanting to not assist Krishna in his pastimes, he denies himself the pleasure that comes of cooperating with Krishna. Krishna has put the jiva in that situation so that if he exercises his free will properly, he will attain bliss. But when the jiva is adamant not to cooperate, then even though then he suffers a while till he agrees to cooperate. Instead, he embraces Maya, who gives him only acute harassment. If anyone is to blame for this dilemma, it is the jiva and definitely not Krishna. So that's what he says. So the jiva misuses his free will, therefore he is suffering. So why should Krishna be blamed for it? Like that. Okay, any quick comments, questions before we end today's session? It's already 4:30. Any final discussion point, comment, or question? Okay, so we will pause here and we'll continue this discussion next. Okay, today is Friday and coming Monday we will have this discussion. So which means in a couple of days, because this week we could not have it on Monday, we shifted it to Friday, but next week you will have it on Monday only. So thank you all very much for your patient listening and your participation also. So hoping to have your association next Monday. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Shri Jaiva Dharma ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Shikshamrit ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.